Hey guys, for today's video we're looking at the story of the Chrysler 200. As you can tell by the title, for this type of video I look at a Mopar vehicle that was cancelled and go through the history of the car, the different models, the major flaws of the car, and ultimately why it was discontinued. You guys have been requesting the 200 for a while, so here it is. And make sure to check out some other episodes as well, like the Dodge Dart, Avenger, and Journey SRT. So first off, we need to go back to 2009, where the Chrysler 200 debuted as a 200C electric vehicle model at the 2009 North American International Auto Show in Detroit. In 2010, the 200 production began in Sterling Heights, Michigan on a gasoline model, and by December 2010, customers could purchase a 2011 model Chrysler 200. For 2011, the 200 ended up being released as a 5-passenger, 4-door midsize sedan, and also as a 2-door convertible, which was added in early 2011. The first gen 200 was basically still a Chrysler Sebring, as it used the same JS platform, but it was restyled and re-engineered with many changes to the body and the powertrains. Around this time, the midsize sedan segment was the largest vehicle segment in the US, with over 1.6 million cars sold in 2009, so obviously Chrysler wanted to try to continue to capture this market, not with the Sebring anymore, but with the new 200. When compared to the Sebring on the outside, the 200 got upgrades to the front and rear fascia and fenders, different grille and Chrysler badging, a new hood, rear deck lid, projector headlights and fog lights, and LED taillights. Chrysler tried to make a vehicle that could do it all to tackle the midsize segment. And another goal with the 200 was to brand the car as the little brother of the very successful full-size flagship Chrysler sedan, which was of course the 300. This was also an opportunity for Chrysler to get away from the Sebring name, which was notorious for poor quality control. The interior cabin was redesigned as well, with sound deadening treatment to reduce as much noise, vibration, and harshness as possible, including an acoustic glass windshield, laminated side glass, a different engine mounting system, and other materials throughout the cabin. The instrument panel, bezels, and steering wheel were all new, along with softer cushion and leather seats available. Chrysler also added many user controls and features, like steering wheel controls, an available media center with voice command and hands-free phone, Sirius satellite radio, a 30GB hard drive, iPod connectivity, streaming music capability, and a navigation system with Sirius Travel Link. Originally for 2011, the 200 had 4 models: LX, Touring, Limited, and S. The LX started at a base price of just under $20,000, and the price has slowly climbed up to $26,240 for a 200S model. And convertible models carried just a higher price tag, between $26,000 and $32,000. Moving on to performance, the LX and Touring got the 2.4-liter World engine that was carried over from the Sebring, and that engine produced 173 horsepower and 166 pound-feet of torque. With the 4-cylinder, you could get a 4 or 6-speed automatic transmission, and Limited and S models got the new best-in-class 3.6-liter Pentastar V6 with a 6-speed auto, and that engine generated 283 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. Along with the power improvements, the 200 had almost every part of the suspension retuned or redesigned from the Sebring, so they changed 26 of the 30 suspension bushings, re-engineered the suspension geometry, increased the track by 1 inch, lowered the front by 12mm and the rear by 6mm, and increased the stock tire width by 10mm to 225s. So all of this gave the 200 less body roll and vehicle shake, better steering precision, better response and feel, and overall better handling than its predecessor. And all of these improvements enabled some better performance over the Sebring, as you'll see on screen. Even though Chrysler CEO Sergio Marchionne announced in 2013 that the first gen 200 would be replaced by a redesigned version, the 2013 and 2014 200 models still got quite a few upgrades. The 200 convertible got suspension upgrades to match the rest of the 200 models, as before it still had a lot of the components from the Sebring suspension. And the soft top convertible got the exact setup as the other 200s, but the hardtop had restrictions as the ride could not be too stiff, so it got a different modified setup. And 2013 also saw Chrysler get rid of the S model and add an S interior and S exterior package in its place. And they also added an S special edition with only around 200 cars being built, with a price tag of just under $30,000. This was a collaboration with Detroit clothing company Carhartt, who added water-resistant black fabric seats, logos in the back of the seats, and diesel gray accent stitching. Mopar tweaked the fascias, added new semi-gloss black 18-inch wheels, along with a deck lid spoiler, black mesh grille, stiffer suspension, and unique badging among other things. And for the next year in 2014, the S Special Edition became the 200 Super S, which had two different stages of upgrades. The first was visual with many of the same upgrades as the S Special Edition, so that included a chin spoiler, satin chrome trim around the fog lights and grille, new side sills, hyper black 18-inch wheels, matte black lower diffuser, and black chrome 200 badges. And stage 2 was more about performance, so it added a coilover suspension, cold air intake, and a catback exhaust. Again, as I said, the first gen was short-lived, and the newer gen 2015 200 model debuted in January at the 2014 North American International Auto Show. And this time around, it was also in the midsize sedan segment, made to compete with the likes of the Toyota Camry, Honda Accord, Nissan Altima, Mazda 6, Chevy Malibu, and Ford Fusion, to name a few. The convertible was cancelled, as Chrysler stated that there was a declining demand for these cars, and also said that it was just going to be too expensive to make convertibles on the new platform. This platform was Chrysler's compact US-wide platform, or CUSW for short, and was also used for other vehicles like the Dodge Dart, Jeep Cherokee, Chrysler Pacifica, and the Alfa Romeo Giulietta overseas. As I talked about in my Avenger video, the decision to cancel the Avenger and keep the Dart and 200 at this time in 2015 stems from the fact that Chrysler wanted to keep producing the Dart and 200 on this shared platform and gain economies of scale by doing so, leaving the Avenger in the dust without a new 2015 model. So the 200 started with 4 models, the LX, Limited, S, and C. The LX started down at $21,700, while the C went up to $25,995. The C would add more premium options like Napa leather seats, dual zone automatic temperature control, footwell lamps, 4-wheel independent suspension, and optional dual panoramic sunroof. The 2016 models changed up a bit with Touring, Limited Platinum, 200S Alloy Edition, and 200C Platinum versions instead. As for the new design, it had an elegant, kind of coupe-shaped body style with a smaller front fascia with the Chrysler winged badge and a larger grille below that. The headlights are sleek with LED daytime running lights that wrap around part of the headlight. Side body lines are subtle but give the car a nice shape. And the rear of the car is more plain with a black rear diffuser and 2 exhaust openings on either side that are mounted in the fascia. As for the interior, Chrysler has said that they wanted to go for a wow factor inside. The interior obviously will vary depending on which model you get, but high quality materials were used in some of the higher trims, like available open pore wood trim, vinyl wrapped instrument panel and armrests, and available Napa leather seats that were power adjustable, memory capable, and heated and ventilated. The center console area looks like a floating island, and there was a soft blue glow added to the instrument cluster. The center console also got a rotary shift knob instead of a traditional gear shifter, which allowed Chrysler designers to make better use of the space up front. This also made the 200 the first car in its segment to have a dial-based gear shifter. The cup holders were innovative, with a sliding functionality to move them back and forth, and other technology features include an available 8.4-inch Uconnect touchscreen, Alpine 9-speaker sound system, a big glove box that could fit an iPad or a laptop, a dual panoramic sunroof, and a 2-tone heated and leather-wrapped steering wheel. The cabin was built to be very quiet, with reduced noise, vibration, and harshness. As for performance, the World gas engines were replaced by the name Tiger Shark, and they got updated valve trains and intakes. So the 2.4-liter World engine from their first gen 200 became the 2.4-liter Tiger Shark. The 3.6-liter Pentastar also carried over, but it got a bit of a power boost to 295 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque, and that horsepower was best in class. Both engines were paired with a 9-speed automatic transmission, making the 200 the world's first midsize sedan to offer a 9-speed. And the 200 got either front-wheel drive or an all-wheel drive system, and the all-wheel drive gave the 200 another first, the first midsize sedan to feature a complete rear axle disconnect, which reduced energy loss and improved fuel economy. This meant that the car seamlessly switches between front and all-wheel drive, transferring as much as 60% of the torque to the rear wheels when necessary. And a new sport mode was added to change steering, throttle, and shifting points, and also the 200 was the most aerodynamic vehicle and had the lowest drag coefficient in its class as well. Unfortunately, in mid-2016, Sergio Marchionne announced that FCA would be ditching their midsize sedan efforts and getting out of the segment, dropping both the 200 and the Dart. The last Chrysler 200 model was produced on December 2nd, 2016 at the Sterling Heights Assembly in Michigan, and they made enough 2017 models to last roughly 4 months. So now let's look at some of the reasons why the 200 got cancelled, along with some of its flaws. As we've seen, the 200 is not a bad car at all, and as you'll see on screen, sales were actually quite decent, peaking at over 177,000 in 2015, but there were some different factors that caused this discontinuation. So the first reason has to do with cost. The sales were decent for the midsize segment, not at the top of the segment, but still not bad. However, at a press conference at the 2017 Detroit Auto Show, then CEO of FCA Sergio Marchionne has been quoted saying, quote, "I can tell you right now that both the Chrysler 200 and the Dodge Dart, as great products as they were the least financially rewarding enterprises that we've carried out inside FCA in the last 8 years," end quote. And he also said, quote, "I don't know one investment that was as bad as these two were," end quote. This to me is a clear indicator that something went wrong somewhere along the way. Maybe the economies of scale didn't pan out, or it was too expensive to adapt the 200 and Dart to the compact US-wide platform that we talked about, or they weren't making high enough profit margins on each sale of the 200. In order to possibly keep the 200 alive at the time, Chrysler tried searching for a partner to go in with them on this car, so they likely wanted to leverage that partner, who probably already had made tons of sedans and had the resources and capability to keep doing so. I'm thinking someone like Hyundai. FCA wasn't willing to keep up the investment though, and withdrew the 200 from the segment. The second reason is that the 200 didn't feel compelling enough to make customers want to buy the car. Both the 200 and the Dart had some great features, but neither was a clear leader in any of the areas customers care about the most, which would be value, style, safety, performance, technology, fuel economy, and design. In their respective classes, so compact car for the Dart and midsize sedan for the 200, both cars were always considered decent, but they both placed number 16 in the rankings for the US News and World Report Best Cars list. And if you compare a car like the 200 to other cars in the segment like a Camry or Accord, you need to do a lot of things perfectly, and the 200 just did not do that. With 15 cars above them on the list, like the Malibu, Sonata, Accord, Camry, and Altima, just to name a few, many buyers went for those options instead, and FCA decided that it made the most sense to stop competing in this crowded segment. The third reason kind of ties into the second, but it seemed like Chrysler made the 200 a class leader in many things that people just don't care about. On screen I'll display what the 200 offered that was either best in class or first time in the segment, but some of these won't resonate with customers. Do many people care that this car had best-in-class aerodynamics? Or the first midsize car with a rotary dial shifter? I think maybe FCA focused on the wrong things to be best-in-class at. The fourth reason I have is that both the company and customer preferences have been shifting more towards SUVs and trucks, and this is an area where FCA really excels at. Simply put, sales are stronger for FCA's trucks and SUVs, and buyers come to Chrysler and Dodge dealerships for muscle cars, trucks, and Jeeps, and they usually overlook a car like the 200. So it made sense for FCA to concentrate their investments on producing vehicles that they are good at making. The 200 platform continues on, but it makes the Jeep Cherokee and Chrysler Pacifica, which have stronger sales for FCA. The 200 sales dropped dramatically in 2016, 65% lower than in 2015, and Sergio Marchionne was asked about whether dropping sedans would be short-sighted. He just responded by saying that the truck and SUV market will be strong for years, and sedans require big investments that might not pay off, and he used the 200 as an example. FCA moved the Ram production to the Sterling Heights plant once the 200 was cancelled, and they used all the resources to focus on their more profitable truck and SUV lines instead. The fifth reason is about the 9-speed transmission, which Chrysler just couldn't get quite right. Consumer Reports describes it saying, quote, "It has proven to be a reliability albatross," end quote. The 9-speed was clunky, rough shifting, and often it didn't know which gear to go into. Basically, all the issues on carcomplaints.com about this car are for the transmission, and also Lemon Law articles were written about this, saying that there were tons of glitches making customers have to return their cars to the dealer over and over without a proper fix. As they said on carcomplaints.com, quote, "The 2015 Chrysler 200 carries the torch of never buy the first year of a new vehicle generation with pride," end quote. And the sixth and final reason was another major flaw, that the 200 lacked space in the rear seats. The slope of the roof made it too hard for adults to get in, and once inside they had very little headroom to sit comfortably. As you'll see on screen, Sergio Marchionne spoke his thoughts about this with a quote, where he basically calls the designers dummies for copying a Hyundai rear seat entry design, and this was something that could not be corrected easily without losing money, because they would have to change the whole structural design on the 200 to change the entry point. Sergio was definitely onto something as well, as many competitors had many more inches of legroom in the back seats for the same segment. So there you have it, many reasons why the 200 failed. I think that the combination of cost, flaws, and consumer preferences all caused FCA to pull the plug and use this plant to produce other SUVs and trucks. So that's the end of the video, guys. If you like this type of video, let me know in the comment section below, and make sure to give some suggestions for a possible future video as well. Thanks for watching, make sure to like and subscribe for all your Mopar content, and I'll see you next video.